Okay, I'm doing this sort of back and forth with these two things. And for this next video, I'm going to paint in the secondary color petals. So that's going to be my orange and violet or purple, depending on what, never mind, and green. So I'm going to try to get watery mixes of those. This was not quite as watery as I was kind of imagining, but we'll see about that eventually. So let's see. I think I'll start with the orange. I'll start with spazzing out. Well. And speaking of orange, I'm going to mix a little bit of the Hansi Yellow Deep. And that's not quite watery enough. But I'll be mixing that and some of the Pyrrole Orange. So that seems pretty nice and orange. I'm going to grab a little bit more water. And I'm checking to make sure that indeed there's a little O, a letter O, to make sure that I'm painting the correct shape here. Especially when things start overlapping like this, it's tricky. Shift that around a bit. So because watercolor is so awesome and naturally transparent, these overlapping interactions of paint are one of the coolest things about watercolor, in my humble opinion. Typically what I do is just sort of find out where those naturally occur, and if I feel like, you know, reinforcing them and enhancing them, then that's what I'll do, and that's one of the main things I do with this particular project as well. So let's see, how about good old green? I still have some of that phthalo yellow green, and I'm gonna grab a little bit of that was a little too much of phthalo green blue shade. So now I got all this paint in there, and I want to tame it down a little bit with a little bit more of the lighter valued green paint. So it's doing a couple things. It's adding, has two colors, and then with the water is like adding white, so go easy on yourself once you find it confusing. And I think, yeah, double check. G, green, good. I guess I'm starting at this point for this petal. I know I say this on other videos, but when you are doing more than one shape and not letting excuse me, things dry in between, you can get yourself into trouble. Good heavens, what's just with where the color is pooling. You can sort of lose track of something, and then all of a sudden it's either spilling over somewhere where you didn't want it to, or just drying in ways that you weren't quite after. That's going to be fine for those. So now I'm going to come back to the last secondary color. I'm going to I'm going to bless this color and release it. And I'm going to curse the fact that watercolor palettes stain too easily, unless you get really expensive porcelain ones. But I'm gonna steer clear of my dioxazine purple, which hopefully you saw me talk about in one of the videos. But I'm just gonna mix up, instead of using that to get to my purple, I'm gonna use one of my favorite mixes for violets and purples, and that is quinacridone pink and ultramarine blue. Trying to kind of think, is it in between those? It seems maybe it's kind of on the reddish, a little too red. Maybe I'll grab one more smudge. Smudge. That was the technical term. No, kidding aside, I do love these two colors for my purples, and I should just, yeah, I need to accept that. Okay, I digress. So let's see. That is always fun to see how these one layer will interact with another. That's a lot of green paint over there that I'm trying to keep an eye on. At the same time, focusing on my purple hair. I'm going to grab a touch more water for just seemed like it wasn't quite wanting to flow. I think that was because of the water. I don't know, maybe the paper's sort of weird right there. It's a repurposed piece of paper, so from a project that didn't work, which if you're anything like me, you'll have a lot of options to, a lot of opportunity to do that. So I think I'll stop there and I'll let that dry and come back to other fun things. Okay.